Hello, and welcome to week 11, where we start working on the ads assignment. So we're moving into the final phase of the course, and that's because you're a Django developer. The first phase was kind of doing tutorials. The second phase was working on your own. And so now I consider you a Django developer, and let's build an application together. The application we're going to do is a Facebook marketplace. I call it ads. And we're going to add to this application all the kinds of things that you need. We're going to have navigation bars. We're going to have login and logout. We're going to have pictures in this application. We're going to have rows that belong to some people so you can edit your own ad, right? And so here we are, and it's also getting to be the time of the year where it's time for me to start doing my hobby racing. I have a number of race cars. That's one of them that you're looking at, my red Mustang #1. But we're just a week or so away of the opening weekend of the racetrack. So I have been talking about the rest of the semester, quote unquote, for a while now. This is kind of like what we did after the midterm. And I gave us 2 weeks on login and authentication in the CRUD application. And that's because I think CRUD's really important. And literally, the first thing we're going to do this week is do a slightly different CRUD application. And so just getting CRUD right was really important to me. This week, we're learning about owned rows and what I call multi-user applications. Owned rows is an idea that you go to Facebook Marketplace, you can put an ad up, but you can see everybody else's ad, but you can't edit their ad. You can update your ad, you can delete your ad. So for your ads, it's CRUD. But for everyone else's ads, it's read. And so the question is, how do we represent this in our database, in our data model? And the answer is, when we make a row for an ad, we're going to record who owns it. So when you're logged in and you create an ad, we copy the owner into that row. And when you're not logged in as that user, it doesn't show you the edit or delete button. So you can only edit your own data. And so it is really just, in some ways, simpler, because there's only one table. It's a table of ads. We'll get to multiple tables later, but in the beginning, it's actually simpler from a data model perspective than the autos CRUD was. And so it's still just a single table CRUD. Anybody can create a new ad. Everybody can read every ad, and you can update ads that belong to you and delete ads that belong to you. And so the key thing here is I'm showing you is if you're logged in as different people, the essence of multi-user applications is if you're not logged in, you can see all the ads but not edit them. If you're logged in as person 1, you can see all the ads and edit your ads. And if you're logged in as person 2, you can also see all the ads and edit your ad. And that's some of these rows in a database, in a system, belong to somebody. And to modify them, you have to log back in as the person who created them in the first place. So what are we going to do this week? So there is the new ads application. You don't have to delete anything. You just start a new app. It's the last new app we'll do for the rest of the semester, because everything else we're going to do is editing this. So you can't get behind, because the next week after this, you're going to be working on ads, but it's going to assume that you have it working. So everything builds now. Instead of like little things, throw it away, make a new folder. This time we're going to work on a thing, and all the auto graders are going to test the cumulative capability of your application. So what you're going to test and pass this week, you can't break it for next week. You're going to add some stuff for it, etc., etc. And so again, if you look at the things that are in the Sakai at UMSI, there's a 30-minute lecture about concepts, owned rows, 30 minutes. It's only 30 minutes this week, and it's pretty dense because there's object orientation. You're creating new views in owner.py that you're going to use in your views. And again, I keep saying that this class is very much an object-oriented class. And so I would spend some time with that. The other thing that you're going to see is there's a ton of sample code. And so your application this week has to have a menu. It has to look pretty when you make it. If you compare when you're done with this, how pretty it looks compared to how pretty autos work, you'd be like, oh, how pretty autos look. You'd be like, oh, autos is terrible looking. and there's some sample code called My Arts, which is an article thing, but it doesn't have menus. And so just like in everything, you've got to look at all this stuff. And so these walkthroughs, 14 minutes, 10 minutes, and 30 minutes, they're very useful for you to look at. Now, I should probably talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. You can try to use artificial intelligence to tell it to write an ad application with a menu. And it may be able to do that, but it's almost certainly never going to pass the autograder. So my goal in this class is not for you to write an ads application as fast as possible. My goal for you is for the ads application to be your reason to learn the code that's in the sample code. So the autograder to some degree is looking for an application that's built based on adapting the sample code. So you might say, oh, I'll just have AI do it all. And the answer is, well, it's not going to pass it. And if your AI starts breaking and you didn't follow my sample code, I'm not going to spend hours figuring your AI written code out if you can't figure it out. If you start with the sample code and you do what I tell you to do with the sample code and it breaks, I can help you really, really fast. And so that's the key. Just be really careful about using artificial intelligence at this point in the class, because it can get you in trouble and we won't be able to. I don't really want to 3 weeks from now tell you go start over. I don't, because I'm not going to try to make your AI generated code pass the autograder. I'm not going to do it. Okay? So you're supposed to learn how to code. Later, as you will see, there will be time to do AI. So this again is the multiple weeks of the rest of the semester. We still are going to work on images and application. We're going to work on JavaScript, many-to-many data models, AJAX, JSON web pages, and interactive applications. That's a lot. So please catch up. This week is not too bad. You get a bunch of instructions. You got a bunch of stuff you copied, but you did that with autos, so you kind of know how to look at the sample code and make things. And this reuses a lot of the code that you've already built, in that you got the login working, you got your bootstrap stuff there, etc., etc., etc. And so some of that you don't have to do again, because this adds inherits some of the capabilities in your home folder from the stuff you've done so far. And the last thing I'll talk about is the final exam. And so the final exam to some degree is kind of the fourth phase of the class. This is the phase where I want you to celebrate that you're a Django developer. I'm going to give you an exam that's only about Django coding skills. And it's open book, open notes, open laptop, open internet, and even open AI, right? It'll have autograders, so you got to pass the autograders. You have unlimited tries in your autograders, instant feedback, just like whatever. It's no multiple choice, okay? And so the idea is, it's just, hey, you're out there in the world now. You don't have a teaching assistant or GSIs or a professor. It's time for you to figure out Django. And you can use everything, including all the sample code that you've written so far. And it'll be done during the final exam period, but it's online and you don't have to do it. So you can be traveling, you can go home. I will not force you to be on campus after the last day of class, okay? And so again, if you're not caught up, this is a great time to catch up. Sorry, I say that over and over and over again. But welcome to the beginning of the last phase of the course, and congratulations on getting this far. Cheers.